5 minutes after the hour, the Glen Biegel Show continues here on KOAN and KVNT. Our sponsor for this hour of the program is A&A The Shop. If you're looking for someplace to take your Subaru, I got just a place. How about this? Alaska's premier independent Subaru service center, A&A The Shop. They're also the best shop in Anchorage 6 out of the last 12 years. Best warranty in the business, ASC certified. They only work on Subarus. I mean, that is something that's, I think, basically is literally unheard of. Even the dealership works on Fords and Chryslers and all kinds. Actually, do they even make Chryslers anymore? How old have I been? They got rid of Chrysler.
Chrysler? No, I think they have.
There's still a Chrysler?
There's like a town and country minivan.
Like a Chrysler 300 or something?
I don't know about
powerful vehicle.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right. So if they do still have Chryslers out there, then they're probably, even if they don't, even if they're not making them, they still have to serve it. The point is, if I may get back to my point, because I got lost there for a second, that A&A only takes care of Subarus. If you've got one, how about this? An 85-point inspection with every servicing. Give them a call, 562-391-9696. You remember one of the things which helped bring down our good governor, Sarah Palin? It was that she was using private email and texts in order to hide state business from the public records laws, or at least that was the interpretation of the people who despised Sarah and everything she stood for. Well, guess who fell into the trap? This is what happens, of course, when you lay traps like that. Hillary Clinton.
Oh,
it couldn't have happened to a nicer lady.
The most ethical person.
The most ethical person on the planet may have actually broken the law. They're trying to work this out. HDR22 at clintonemail.com. Hillary's use of private email at State Department raises flags, multiple accounts. Does this sound familiar, by the way? This is just what the Palin group had done. They'd essentially moved all the stuff they wanted to hide, and they were kind of snarky, frankly. You know, I got turned out in some of the emails.
Did you really?
Yeah, they dissed me a couple of.
I'll have to go back and look at that.
Yeah, I got voted off Palin Island because I was, I was in the crew there for a while.
Yeah, you were.
I was a member of the group. I was a groupie, and
groupie.
Yeah. Well, you do get caught up in the cult of personality, and the reason is, if for those who don't know, running a political campaign or being in the middle of one is a lot like a war. And even though you're arming things, you are in a war. It's life or death. You are doing everything you can to try and advance your cause. And so, yeah, I mean, eggs get broken, omelets get... And so, you just start glossing over things and so on and so forth. I had kind of sort of a hard lesson on Troopergate, because I was on her side basically the whole time. I was saying, you know what? This is okay. She has every right to be able to do this, that, or the other thing. Appoint people, unappoint people, get rid of people. Looking back, I don't think she did. She got rid of a commissioner of Department of Public Safety, I think. And Frank Bailey was involved. Anyway, I don't want to bring all that stuff up.
I was a Palin bot. Yeah. Admittedly. I still am in some ways. I think she does some really good things.
Oh, yeah. She gives good speech.
Yes.
Yes, she does. And she's cute. She's got power poses and all that kind of stuff. Does Dharma hot yoga, and gives interesting hand gestures to people who are photographing her when she does that.
Do you think that she meant to do that? Really?
Yeah.
See, I'm still a Palin bot.
Yeah, I do. I don't know. Can you imagine how awful the press was to her? They attacked her poor children.
They attacked her mercilessly.
It was a big eye-opening, of course, for most people. But the point being, experts say about Hillary, I am really having a problem here not calling her Hillary. This goes to show you that I am just mean. I mean, that's just mean. I think Hillary is largely a product of Wesley College. Isn't that where she went? Some women's college. And then also Bill Clinton. where she decided she would essentially hate and try to destroy the rest of humanity because her husband was such a louse, a rat in the making. Would love to hear from you, 569-1080. Basically, anything on your mind, you're just welcome to call up. What is today? Tuesday? I almost thought it was Monday for a second there. I lost a whole day, and it's only the second day of the week. Who knows? I could think that it's Wednesday on Friday. Let me go to Karen. Karen, welcome to the Glen Biegel Show. Nice to talk to you.
Hey, Glenn.
Hi.
Well, I'm one of the first ones that will probably call out Don Young when he does something wrong. So I have to give credit where credit is due.
Oh.
Most people know today that Boehner sold out all conservatives by passing a clean funding bill for Department of Homeland Security. Thankfully, Don Young did vote no on that.
Well, good for him.
I gotta give him a shout out.
That is fantastic. And I think it's very important that we do that, by the way, Karen.
Right, because, a lot of us, especially me, I will really get on his case when he doesn't do the right thing. But when they do take a stand, it's time to appreciate that, so that hopefully that will encourage him to keep doing the right thing.
I agree with you. I agree. Don Young has not lost my faith altogether. Yes, I hit on him. I think Joe should run against him, and I think it would be a good race. So we'd have a good decision to make. But he still can win me back.
But it's important for us, like I know I did and other people did, to put the pressure on them before the vote, to let them know that we are paying attention.
Yes.
And I'll tell you, the final vote was 257 to 167. And one story I read is that the RNC, that Reince Priebus, or whatever his name is, is paying using a lot of money to coerce other members of Congress to vote for this. So,
how many Republicans and how many Democrats voted for this? Was it largely a Democrat vote?
Oh, yeah. It was, but 75 Republicans jumped ship, too.
Well,
75.
how did he get it through the caucus? Doesn't he have to pass things by getting an agreement to the caucus? Otherwise, the caucus could vote him out.
Well, that's what we tried to accomplish before he was seated. A lot of us were pressuring
Karen, thank you. Please know how much I appreciate people who worked this and tried and tried and tried. Don't lose that fire.
Okay, thank you, Glenn.
Thank you, Karen. You're listening to the Glen Biegel Show on KOAN and KVNT. It is, what is it? Tuesday. It's Tuesday. It's Tuesday. Give me a call, 569-1080. Okay, I'm busy over here. Okay, I'm trying to figure out exactly what happened with Boehner. On that guy. Sorry for yelling at you. Welcome back. This is the Glen Biegel Show. And KOAN and KVNT 569-1080. That's the number here in town, and in the other town, that's just much nicer, cheaper, just a better place to live, other than the fact they have a sales tax, 357-5868. Those are the two numbers you need to know. Lots of places to find us. Hopefully you find us on a place that has a very good signal. Online actually has some of the best, what would you call it? Audio? I don't know. Some
less
term
static.
Yeah, it's a cleaner signal. It's
clear.
Digitally it's digitally pure. Let me go to Michelle. Michelle, welcome to the Glen Biegel Show. Thanks for calling.
Thanks. Hi. It's probably a little too late because we moved on to another subject, but I was calling in response to your Palin Hillary.
Yeah, well, let me bring people up to date. So it's the funny thing is they threw at Palin, and one of the things that they didn't like was she was using private emails and texts and all kinds of stuff to essentially conduct, I don't know, something like a public commentary and public business on private services. And they told her she has to try anything that has anything to do with public business, you have to turn over. Hill, like she's fallen into the same trap.
Sure. Well, I hope they find it because I hope they find those private emails.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. A lot of that stuff actually is coming out, funny enough.
I know. It's just an interesting return of karma on Hillary. However, I'm not a big Palin fan anymore. I used to be a fan of hers, too, until she turned on Governor Sean Parnell.
Yeah.
Basically over aces and did it behind his back. So I lost all.
Hey, can we have a big virtual Palin hug here? Everybody, come on in. Yeah. There we go. All right, virtual hug. Good. I like that.
No, not a hug, a Palin hug. No.
Yeah. Well, look, we were all there. We were all with her. We were all cheering her on, and all of a sudden we found out. Wait a minute.
What kind of a person she
What
is?
exactly happened here?
Well, she's not exactly the brightest bulb on the chandelier either. I used to support her, and then she opened her mouth about Paul Revere ringing the bell, and that's my hometown.
Oh no, she's going to offend you there. Well, look, the thing is that you may not know this, but people should know this. They very care most politicians' interactions with media, and they're almost always friendly. And the amount of stuff that's out there on Bill and on Barack Obama. It's completely embarrassing, but they never let it out because he's on their side. Yeah.
Right. Right. No, I know that.
She's no dumber than any of the other politicians. I mean, let's just be honest. She's an average person. She's a regular person, but she's got bravery, which meant that a lot of us really loved her. And she was mercilessly attacked by the media, who we despised, and therefore we loved her even more.
Well, I agree with you on all those points, but I don't think she deserves a lot of the support that she got when it turned out that some of the rumors about her being vindictive actually were true.
Yeah, that was a huge, huge problem. I agree.
So anyway, that's my 5 cents. I just wanted to share it 5 minutes later.
All right. Well, no, I appreciate it. Thanks for holding on, Michelle.
Sure, take care.
That. 569-1080, 357-5868. Yeah, talking there about Hillary Clinton. She apparently, Drudge is reporting, a lot of legal minds are saying that she broke the law. Highly unusual. Guccifer, that's closer to Lucifer and Gucci. Anyway, apparently he's some kind of background guy that's got his fingers into the back end of the internets. He says they say he first discovered the back channel flashback hacked Benghazi emails. So maybe we will find out. Maybe Michelle's comment there that we might actually get some details here. Finally, on Benghazi, she was probably carrying out all of her commentary with Susan Rice and all the other people out lying daily. I think they lied for 2-3 weeks. It was just before the president. All they were trying to do is stop the light and the heat from coming down on President Obama, which it would have been legitimate for it to come down. So they were doing anything. I mean, this just goes to show the complicity of the media.
Well, it's the same thing with the IRS too. Lois Lerner and all her emails.
Absolutely. Yeah, they lost. They quote lost. And they were destroying the computers. And they were destroying all of the tapes, all the backups and everything else. They destroyed as many copies as they could find. Who would believe that?
Who believes this stuff?
The question is, Democrats, if the Republicans said exactly the same thing,
right,
what would you do? Because I can tell you, if the Republicans were out harassing, stopping left-wing groups, even though I despise you, I would fight. I know that you always say you would fight and die for our right to speak freely. I know you wouldn't. But I would for you. And that's a big difference. And that's a difference in the Democrat Party today. I think this is very new. I don't think this has happened. I don't think it's more than 15 years old. And I think it was largely the homosexual movement. And homosexual marriage, really, where they really wanted to redefine the foundational principle. Just to let people know, marriage does not have a lot to do with love, at least as far as society is concerned. We don't care whether you love your spouse. You know, you look at the pictures from back like in 1860. You got Ma, Kettle, and Pa Kettle there in the picture together. Did they look like they loved each other at all? No, they didn't love each other at all. They didn't love each other even the slightest, teeniest little bit, and society didn't care. Love has never been part of the calculus of the importance of marriage. Tying a father to his children, that's a big deal. Did you know that a child in a household is 20 times more likely to commit a violent crime? Do you understand that? See, marriage does have a reason for being. And it's not because we love each other. It's not just kumbaya. It's not because we want to share property. It's because we have a society. We have to figure out how to make boys into decent people and not just treat women like they're property and not treat them like they're objects to be used and abused. The purpose of society in my mind. And I know this agrees with me. The purpose of society is to let me do as many things as I possibly can do and see how they all turn out, right? Society. It's a big difference between the left and the right on this, and I think everybody should be choosing which side they come down on. So here's the lowdown on Boehner. We had somebody call in the last, was it Kathy? Let's see. Karen called. Karen called and said that John Boehner had given in. So here's how he did it, because I couldn't figure it out. I thought he had to get half of the Republican coalition, or half the group of Republicans. There are three parties, by the way. I will prove it to you. Hey, Bonnie, this is really important. Listen, we have a three-party system. Democrats, united. Left-wing Republicans, establishment Republicans, and conservatives. There are three parties. So you can vote three parties. This is why I don't understand. We have groups of people, we have states, we have entire parts of the nation that are represented by just the people we would want to be to represent us. There's no creation of a third party that's gonna. All you're going to do is just break the three parties into four parties, and then the Democrats will win every election.
I was just going to say, wouldn't you agree that the Libertarians are starting to make a move? And there's even two different parts of the Libertarian movement.
Yeah.
There's the left wing and the right wing.
Right. The no borders, anarchy wing of Libertarians, and then sort of the ultra conservative, we want government to be even smaller.
Well, and I would add to that it's the moral side of the Libertarian movement.
Yeah, there
they
are
do
some
believe that there should be morals.
They're very conservative in their moral upbringing and their view that society has a duty to look after that. Libertarians don't really matter right now. They matter as to whether or not they show up to vote for a Republican. They'll never have a majority they'll never be able to elect anyone. But they can unelect people.
Never say never, Glenn.
No, they'll never. No, because as the conservative side of the ledger splinters, Democrats are getting stronger and stronger. They churn out more and more of your kids who don't believe anything you believe. You don't even recognize their belief system, but they keep sending them to their public schools. And the media keeps convincing people that, I don't know, corporations are evil. We got several reports on that in the newspaper today. I mean, there are lots of pressures that are making the Democrats more and more strong. And what they're convincing us is, well, if it's not a perfect candidate, I just not going to vote for him. And more conservatives think along those lines. So a certain percentage of us don't show up to vote. And that could be on the left or the right nowadays. I mean, who knows? There's lots of paths for Democrats to win. Biegel almost won with 46% of the vote. I mean, that was a pretty impressive turnout. Nobody thought he'd get over 45. You're listening to the Glen Biegel Show here on KOAN and KVNT. So how did he do it? How did John Boehner bypass the right of at least half of the Republican caucus to stop this horrible bill, which, in my mind, shutting down the government would be good as long as we can demonstrate how outrageous the Democrats are. That's the purpose of it. Yes, they're going to get to the point where they're not sending out Social Security checks. Yes, we're going to have to start the government up when they do that. But up to that point, hey, let's battle it out. So there's a group of about 70 Republicans in the House. Remember, it's like 250 to 170. I mean, it's a huge, massive surplus of Republicans. So about 75 of them allowed for this bill, this clean Department of Homeland Security bill, to go forward, which essentially legitimizes Obama's open border policy, his breaking of the law. And Boehner's going to throw it to the courts. It's called Rule 22. And this is what it is. It allows any House member to force a floor vote on a bill if the Senate refuses to agree to conference committee. You have a filibuster on the Senate side. There's no conference committee. So any person in the House can force a floor vote. I've never even heard of this. I have never heard of this in my life, and it's never been used in a major way. Rule 22. So welcome to the new political reality. Look, this kind of stuff is fascinating. If you like to know what goes on behind the scenes, you got to pay attention to the show. Walker slams un-Alaskan. Ooh, fighting words, my friend. Pipeline bill. Yes, we will be covering this. Tagline Juno from Matt Buxton. And he writes for the News Miner. There are also stories out there, a couple of them in the Alaska Dispatch News. So we will cover the pipeline battle. And should the state of Alaska, and this is a real question. I'm not coming down on one side or the other. I worry about either side. But should the state of Alaska put up the permanent fund in order to build a pipeline? That's a question for you. Would you give your entire permanent fund and all the state savings in order to build a pipeline? That's a question I have for you. I think that's the question Walker's asking. 28 minutes after the hour, it is the Glen Biegel Show. Stay tuned. 27 minutes before the hour of the Glen Biegel Show continues here on KOAN and KVNT. You got any questions? I would love to hear them. Comments, thoughts, suggestions, complaints, or you just want to talk to Bonnie. Hey, I mean, honestly, she's not doing anything over there. She's just hanging out. Okay, she's doing like 1,000 things all at one time.
I was just gonna say that's not really true.
Nah, not at all, actually. Yeah, I don't know if people have ever had to work. They call it the board. And it does look like some kind of weird futuristic torture device.
Hey, my son was really impressed though the other day with it. Yeah, he has a new respect for me, I think.
All
he was watching me do it and he was like, I mean, he's 14, you know.
Yeah,
so,
you're the cool mom.
Yeah,
now.
Yeah.
Sweet. You know, it's funny because I had my son when he was 14. He did work the board.
I heard about that.
Yeah, Reagan. And Mara was working the board too. She was probably 15 at the time.
That's a good job for a kid.
I think so. I really enjoyed it. A couple hours where I got to essentially berate them. They couldn't answer back, and I could say anything that I wanted, and they had to basically listen to me. I mean, what kind of parent would not want that?
That's awesome.
That's perfect. There's a guy on the phone here. Kind of reminds me of the ability to do that. His name is Todd. Todd, welcome.
Hey, Glenn.
Hi.
You know, you're talking about love and marriage, and that got me to thinking. And, you know, as a Christian, I use the instruction book that God has given to us. I don't follow it all the time, of course, but use it as direction. And the Apostle Paul, or as you Catholics like to call him, St. Paul, wrote that men love your wife. He didn't say be in love with a woman and then make her your wife. He said love your wife. And that is an action. It's not a feeling.
Yeah, very true.
And he said that women respect your husband. He didn't even say love your husband.
You think that for a man, respect is more important than love?
Well, I think so. And I would be interested to hear what, you know, Bonnie has to say about that as well. And, you know, what is that? I mean, how does she feel about that? You know, women respect your husband versus, you know, women love your husband. And I'm also very interested in hearing what you have to say about Governor Walker. I'm trying to figure out how not competing against yourself is somehow un-Alaskan. But
all right.
Anyway.
Well, let's. I appreciate it, Todd. Thanks so much. 569-1080. Bonnie, what do you have to say? So the request from Paul is wives love your husbands, or husbands love your wives, and wives respect your husbands.
Well, do you know, I have matured in this in the last probably 5 years, and I completely agree with Todd. And it's not going to gain me any women friends, I'm sure, because it's not the popular thing to say these days. You know, women and men are not equal. And I've never been a proponent of that. But the last few years, I have come to the understanding that I am blessed to have the husband I have, and I respect him more because I've retrained my brain to think that way. I used to say, you know, he's so lucky to have me, you know, that kind of thing. And now I say over and over, I'm so blessed to have this man. I had some friends of mine say to me one year, Bonnie, you've got one of the good guys. You know, and it just woke me up so much and made me mature in my marriage. And that verse is critical. I heard a sermon on it one time, actually, and it went in depth. And that there is a difference to that, those semantics. You know, love and respect are two different things.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think the man reads respect as love, admiration, those kinds of things. You know, I'll say this, by the way, my same admonition or warning about people trying to equally share duties like laundry and cleaning and car maintenance and shoveling and whatever, there's no such thing as equal. I'll just say it this way. In every interaction, my wife is either the primary person or I am the primary person. And it doesn't have to be the same number of times. She might be the primary person 99% of the time. It just depends on whether or not we're talking about color, which I don't care about. I don't know how many millions of times I've told her, and she doesn't believe me. No, but I mean about even serious things. And so I tend to, I mean, I don't use the same term because people get confused about legalities and all those kinds of things. But I'll say this. The reason what I was speaking of had to do with society's concern for marriage. Why does society worry about marriage? And as we've seen marriages go, not come and go, just go. Now we've got, I think 80% of Black children are out of wedlock. It's approaching 50% for whites. It's 60% for Hispanics. And the real problem is for these boys, right? Women are by their nature much more tuned into what a society is for because they're looking for protection. They like laws. They like stability.
Leadership. Believe
yeah.
it or not, we do like to be led.
You're trying to get me in trouble, and I'm just not going to let that happen. But men, the last thing they want to do is say, well, you need to go discuss that with your girlfriend. No, actually, they want to go and they will show her who's in charge. That's the natural order of things. That's the way things are, unless you have society which says that's really wrong and it's immoral. So there's religion for you. So you have society and religion. A will punish you if you try to do that. B, it's immoral for you to settle things that way. So the care of society is what I was talking about. And, a lot of marriages were arranged for the most part. A lot of marriages were political, but they didn't have a lot to do with love. I mean, you would, it's nice if you love your spouse. And that's why marriage works so well, because there is a lot of love to go around. But that's not why society cares about it, right? When they started using the language of love and say, well, any two people can love each other. Well, what the heck do I care about that? Does that mean, what does that mean? How does that translate? I'll give you the sort of 4 or 5 big things that marriage does for a society. It ties a man permanently to his children. It is much better financially for the woman. It protects the woman from harm. It removes a rogue sexual male. You have non-paired males in a society, and let me tell you, they're about 10 times more likely to be violent. So there's a whole bunch of benefits to marriage, and all these things are just, they're sort of oddities, odds and ends. But to me, that's why society cared about marriage. Society's redefining why it worries or doesn't worry about marriage, and so it's sort of working through these things. Yes, the biblical duty of marriage, I think they're appropriate. Husbands, love your wives. Wives, respect your husbands. And I think that is a fair trade. I think that's the fair trade that most people are kind of looking for when they have a good marriage. And people will find that if you listen to it, you'll probably be a lot happier. I don't think society, by the way, wants you to listen to that at all. It gets very offended by that. He wanted to hear my thoughts on Walker. I have a lot of them, and I'm really still trying to work through how much trouble we could be getting into. Here is the basis of the stories here. Alaska Dispatch News comes up with this one. New Alaska gas line bill shows growing rift between House lawmakers and Walker. Alaska House Speaker Mike Chenault introduced a bill Monday morning to stop Governor Bill Walker from using an existing state corporation to develop a state-controlled large-diameter gas line from the North Slope. This is your permanent fund, by the way. This is your permanent fund. It's so fascinating. The numbers here are mind-boggling. Look, we've got most of the money we need. And I really think that if we're going to do this, Governor Walker, you do it the right way. Put something out which says, shall the state of Alaska use its permanent fund to build all of the facilities and pipeline to get its gas to market? That's what you should ask, because there you've got $52 billion, which if it doesn't work out, right, and we're going to have to take a huge loan out on this. I mean, there's going to be no gas flowing down this line for the next 10 years. It's going to be 10 years before we have gas flowing down the line. So he says he can go out and get all of these customers who are going to give us $65 billion, or they're going to ink deals which say, yes, we want 3 million tons of liquefied natural gas every year for the next 40 years or 30 years, or starting 10 years from now, we want it for 30 years after that. So he takes that promise, because they write on a contract and say that's what we'll do. And we take that over to Wall Street, and Wall Street gives us money. I don't know that won't work. I do know it's dangerous and could take our permanent fund. So this is the difficulty I'm having, Todd. If the state is an owner state, then we have a much more direct tie to this resource than even the oil companies do. And the one thing which, there are several things which occur to me, several things which worry me. If the oil companies are not interested in bringing this to market, because if they're going to bring something to market, they probably could make a profit at it. If they're going to bring a market, they're fairly sure that the regulatory process and the legal process and the building process and the steel making process and all the other processes that you have to go through are all going to work out, and they're not going to get sued or stopped or re-legislated. So if they're not going to do it, you'd say, well, why would the state do it? And this is a real question. This gets down to the rub of why a Norway model works pretty well. And I probably need to get into this in a little bit more detail than I have time for right now. But I think I will, because I think it's important enough to kind of lay out where I'm at. I'm really confused by all of this. I'm frightened by the state essentially putting our entire permanent fund on the line. Because if a private company is not going to do it, why would the state do it? And we're going to talk about that. What benefits does the state have if it owns a pipeline? And I'll give you a hint. If the state owns a pipeline, can the state tax itself? Would the state overtax itself and run itself out of its own state if it owned the pipeline, if it owned the processing plant, if it owned the liquefaction plant, if it owned all the ships that this gas was traveling over to Kogas and the Mitsubishi Corporation, right? So the taxes, I suppose, could be less because the state would be a partner in it. Now, this was why they wanted the state, by the way, to be involved in the direct ownership of the pipeline before, 25% under Parnell, called alignment. So we'll talk about the difference between alignment and ownership. And we'll get to that just after this. Chenault is basically, he's measuring up against Governor Walker. Will the Republicans stay with him? You're listening to KOAN and KVNT 14 minutes before the hour. 11 minutes before the hour. It is the Glen Biegel Show. Oh, my goodness. So much to talk about, so little time. Have you noticed that? We just we try and pack it all in the show. Love to hear from you, though, too. 569-1083, 575-5868. Glen Biegel Show here on KOAN and KVNT. You're looking for a place who can help deliver to you success in this life and the next. This life, by that meaning your working life, and the next life meaning your retired life. Well, Country Financial is just a place. They've been protecting cars, homes, families, and lives, and also helping to get you the retirement that you have earned. If you're interested in getting more information from them or about life, I hope you give them a call. 866-COUNTRY is their name. They're online at countryfinancial.com, and country is spelled
COUNTRY.
The difficult part here. So the state of Alaska has invested in many, many foolish things. And it's made investments in many, many good things. They're called roads. We like roads. We're glad that our state invested in roads, for instance, the Fairbanks or the Alaska highway system. So there are a lot of things that our state does invest in, and there are many things that the state invests in and invests in poorly. And I am reticent, I am unwilling to call this the same kind of an investment as, say, the fish factory. Because what the fish factory was something that already existed. There were many fish processing plants in Anchorage, across the state of Alaska, all over the place. Not a monopoly situation. Not a monopoly situation. And it's very important for people to realize when you're talking about a monopoly, you're already talking about government control, because governments control monopolies so that they don't grow. You might recognize Microsoft there. How did Microsoft get to take over Lotus 123 as a spreadsheet capital? Why did Excel take it over? Lotus 123 was 10 times the better product. But Microsoft said in an anti-competitive way, because they had a monopoly on the operating system, if you buy our operating system, you also have to buy Microsoft Office, which had Excel in it. It gave them vast amounts of operating capital, and eventually they squeezed out Lotus 123. Lotus 123 is gone from anti-competitive market forces. Not because they weren't the best. They absolutely were the best. So when you're talking about a monopoly, you're already talking about a place where the government's going to get involved. The fish processing plant, government didn't have any kind of monopoly. They thought they had some extra money. They thought, hey, maybe we'll build a processing plant here. A bunch of foolish, frankly, people who thought, well, we could be masters of industry. Give us $50 million. We'll build a fish processing plant. Really clever. We kind of know what's going on. Waste. It's worth really $20 million. They had to sell it to one of the churches here. All right. So different situation. Now, let me ask you a question. This is an honest, real, live question, and the same question which I think should probably be on the minds of most of our legislators. What if Exxon, BP, and ConocoPhillips did not want to build this pipeline? Now, there are two reasons why they might not want to build it. No, there are three reasons. Okay. And two of them, by the way, mean we should build it. Two of them mean we should risk the permanent fund on this. So the first reason they may not want to build it, it competes with their other projects around the world. Now, that may be totally unfair. I don't even know how likely it is that this competes with other projects. Look, Exxon has invested $4 billion on the North Slope, on Point Thompson, getting gas and getting infrastructure all the way across the North Slope. That is a big, big, big investment. They have processing requirements. They have production requirements. They've got all kinds of requirements in the leases that they currently signed. To me, that's a pretty big indication that they wanted gas production to happen. Now, a lot of things have happened, by the way, in the last 6 months to oil, to the energy markets all across the world. How can you say that 10 years from now, you're going to be able to get a firm 30-year commitment on this stuff? So I want to get back to the three reasons here. The first reason why the oil companies may not want to do this line is it may compete with their other projects. And even though it's maybe a marginal, maybe a little bit better than marginal line. Maybe for a $50 billion investment, it will only return 20% return on investment every year. They don't want to build it. I think the state should build it. I think the state should take $54 billion or $52 billion in the permanent fund, risk it all, and try and build these processing plants. If that's the only reason, if they really think they could get, maybe it could only get a 20% return on investment. That's probably enough for the state of Alaska. So another reason why they might not build it is because it's risky. Right? That's a different question. Because one of the things about having a sovereign involved in a project, and this is the reason why they really wanted the state of Alaska involved in the project, owning 25% of everything, 25% of the processing line plant. That's the pre-processing plant at the north end. 25% of the pipeline, 25% of the liquefaction. The reason they wanted the state of Alaska in there is because now that you have a sovereign in there, it kind of greases a lot of the skids. You got all the wealth, legal expertise of the state of Alaska on the courtroom, and they're arguing with you. That reduces risk. So now if they say, you know what, this is just too risky of a project, we could get sued. They could stop us at any point. Maybe we wouldn't be able to get the steel. Maybe there'd be a shortage of steel for a few years, or they want to send it somewhere else. Who knows the kind of risks that might come in on this project? And they say it's too risky in the state of Alaska. Look at Shell. Well, that might be another reason. This is a second example out of 3 where the state of Alaska might be interested in investing all of our permanent fund. Gone. The whole permanent fund out the door. Risky. Because maybe the state of Alaska would experience less risk than an oil company. That's a little more tenuous, by the way. Now you're getting into the weeds. Now you're starting to say, well, if they don't want to take the risk, why do we want to take the risk? That seems crazy. And it may be crazy. Could cost us $52 billion, every penny we've saved over the last however many decades. The third reason, by the way, and you're listening to the Glen Biegel Show here on KOAN and KVNT, is if they say this line is not profitable. If that's what they're saying, we'd better listen. Because if this line isn't profitable, we will blow $52 billion and we will rue the day that we ever gave Governor Walker the power to build a line that was not profitable. So I'm mixed up. I'm confused on this. Does the state of Alaska is it in a different position? Because we're not going to build this line. We're going to have TransCanada build it or whoever. Somebody's going to give us $65 billion, and Schlumberger or these huge oil support companies, they're going to build it. Profitable? Can we handle the risk? Will somebody give us the $65 billion? Or are we just going to slap the permanent fund down? And if we do slap the permanent fund down on the table in order to get this line and these processing plants built and all these ships, should the governor come ask the people of the state of Alaska? That's my question to you. We've got a couple of school board candidates coming up, David Nees and Tamagotchi Giesler. I would love to hear questions from you for them as well. 569-1080 and 357-5868. How's that for an explanation, Bonnie? It's complicated. It's freaking complicated, and there's a huge amounts of risks that go on here. So I don't know. It's going to take us months to try and work this out. 2 minutes before the hour. Stay tuned. 5 minutes after the hour, it is the Glen Biegel Show here on KOAN, KVNT. Our sponsor for this hour of the program is Dr. Dan Kiley. If you're looking for somebody to take care of your teeth so they can take care of you for a lifetime, more than 20 years in the business, and just a very gentle person to help you, in kind of a tough place. Going and getting your teeth. A lot of times people will wait 10 or 20 years before they have their dental problems dealt with. He can take care of that kind of thing, disease prevention, early disease and infection control, and also beautiful restorations. Dr. Dan Kiley, 562-9209, and also 4050 Lake Otis Parkway. You can go find him at lakeotisdental.com, and the hour sponsor for this hour of the program. In studio with me, I have Tamagotchi Giesler. Welcome to the program. And on the phone, I've got David Neese.
Thank you very much.
David, have I got you? Do I have to work these phones here, buddy?
Now you have
All
me.
right. Well, welcome. Why don't you guys, I want to give you guys a couple minutes to introduce yourselves and what I'm particularly looking forward and interested in, anything you think is wrong with education now, and what you would do about that, or your priorities for your time in office. Who wants to go first? Tam, you want to go first?
It's up to you.
All right. Tam
Ladies first.
Giesler here.
Ladies first. Thank you, David. So who am I? Basically, background. I've been an Anchorage, Alaskan resident since 1959. I like to say I have a 52-year relationship with the Anchorage School District because I was a student, graduated from West High School. I was a teacher for several decades. I'm a parent of two who have graduated and one who will be graduating this spring. And I was also the director of the School Business Partnership Program, serving this first term on the Anchorage School Board. We have lots of areas that we need to address in terms of education in the 21st century. There's lots of areas that people are concerned about in terms of our students being ready to education or career readiness skills. We have some issues with literacy at the lower grade levels, particularly in third grade, and a number of things that deal with operational efficiencies that we're currently addressing on the board. So I would love to, in order to deal with many of these challenges, one of the things that we've focused on, our funding from that was outside of the HB 278 last year, was on kindergarten readiness and K through second literacy. We have a pilot program that just in the first semester has already shown some very good results. One of the things that is very dear to me is to try to stop the issues of having third graders who aren't proficient in reading, and to try to take care of that problem. I go back to that anecdote of, the babies coming down the river, and people keep taking the babies out of the river until somebody has the great idea of, let's go upriver and see why they're being put in the river. And that's what we need to do. We need to deal with literacy issues before third grade, so that we have a much better chance of increasing their success as they continue their education through 12th. I want to expand our alternative programs that offer choice within our district. We have students with varied learning styles, and there are philosophical preferences, whether that be a language immersion, a back to basics, an optional, a cultural, a Montessori inspired. There's many choices, and I believe we need to expand that more. I'm interested in nurturing career and technical education academies as they expand in our high schools and the King Career Center, and particularly because these career pathway classes bring relevance and engagement of students and rigor to their academic experience, and have many impacts on their post-secondary and their career readiness. There's others too, but I'll give you a chance to
digest all of that.
Right.
Yeah, no, there's a lot to work with. You've been on the school board for a few years, so I'm interested in hearing what kind of roadblocks you're running into there. I know there's a lot of desire from the public to have all these things done, so I guess the question will be, why aren't they done? David, welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome aboard. Are you okay, by the way? Where are you?
I'm out at the airport, and aircraft are like babies. They show up when they want to. So this plane was supposed to show up at 3. It showed up at 5, of course.
All right. Well,
so I apologize to Tam. I didn't intend to be in studio with you, but we get to see each other tomorrow night at Halo anyways. I am a 28-year teacher in the ASD.
I was a math teacher the whole time, so numbers are the things I like to do. I served on last year on the House Sustainable Education Task Force. We basically were the reason that House Bill 278 passed. It's why you have more money going to charter schools. We tried really hard to get the transportation element for charter schools. So I think we did a lot in our committee. That by getting onto the school board, Tam has had 3 years in there to try to get done what she said she was going to do 3 years ago, and now it's I would like to have a chance to try to get done what needs to be done. The issue of third grade literacy, really, they tried to pass a bill on that. ASD has been dropping the ball on it for a very long time. They changed the reading curriculum. Math, the scores in the math dropped this year. And all the time we have budget issues, and the budget issue kind of blossomed in the fall when we had a budget surplus, and then it kind of went away again. But we are definitely looking at a reduction in state spending. And I really hate the fact that every single time we have a reduction in state spending, first thing we go after is teachers. So I guess we can talk topics after that, but I would love a chance to be on the school board.
All right, David Neese is on the phone with us. Tamagotchi Giesler has been on the school board for one term, a 3-year term. And I would like to get into Common Core and everyday math, charter schools, and why we don't have more of them, and what it is that a parent should think of our school district with 600 people on the Aquarian Charter School waiting list. I would imagine there are a lot of parents who are looking for some fairly dramatic changes in the approach to education that we're seeing here in our town. Tamagotchi Giesler on the school board, and David Neese looking for a place on there. I guess we'll elect 3 new members of the school board this year, so it'll be your opportunity to say what kind of board you like. You're listening to the Glen Biegel Show here on KOAN and KVNT 569-1080. If you have a question out in the Valley, 357-5868. Stay tuned. 15 minutes after the hour, the Glen Biegel Show continues here on KOAN and KVNT. Love to hear from you, 569-1080 and 357-5868. If we could, I'd like to do kind of a rapid fire, just get your brief thoughts, 15, 20 seconds or less, on a couple of different issues. Common Core, everyday math. David Neese, can you give me your take on those two issues?
Sure. Common Core is the federal government running your state education, and everyday math is a program I fought against when I was teaching math. And it has basically it's ruined our math all the way. We've got 12 years worth of students backlogged in school that are less than proficient than they were prior to everyday math.
Your thoughts on Common Core? Tamagotchi Giesler in studio here with me.
I do support standards, high standards. I think some of the reluctance with the Common Core has more to do with the testing, the AMP testing that's required that goes with that. And I do have some concerns about that. But even in my discussions with Laura Reinbold, as she and I both agree, we need to have standards. Standards aren't an evil concept. We need to have some way to measure our students and to find out if they're achieving proficiency.
Is a standard across the board for every student? What does that mean for you, if you'll just address that briefly?
That means that if 2 + 2 = 4 is true in one school, it's true in a different school. I mean, that's a very basic, probably a poor example, but it's trying to find a level playing field that everybody, when you have a degree from the Anchorage School District, that it means the same thing.
Do you think everyone could have achieved the same in school as you did? And if everybody achieved to the same level, do you think you would achieve what you achieved?
Do I believe everybody has the same innate talents? No, I do not.
Then how can we have a Common Core standard?
Well, we have people who receive additional services to help them achieve. But just because everybody isn't capable of achieving at the same level does not mean that you shouldn't have standards.
David?
Yeah.
What do you think of standards?
Well, I think I agree with Tam on this one, that you have to have high standards. And I'll give you an example. Ninth grade algebra, less than half of the incoming freshmen can pass that course in 1 year. So our standards prior to ninth grade are not high enough. And I really feel that you have to have a basic foundation in reading, writing, and math. Math is probably more important in my mind, I'm a math teacher, than any other subject. But if you can't read, you can't do the math problems either. So I don't believe. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm a little confused here. What's the issue with Common Core? You call them AMP?
AMP is the new state testing.
Do you think that people just object to a test in general? I mean, we take tests all the time. We have the CAT tests. We used to have Iowa ITBS tests, lots and lots of tests. Why would people object to a test?
I believe there's some concern about how those test measures are going to be used. Not so much that there is a way to measure student proficiency, but how that information is going to be utilized.
I'm a little. I literally don't understand. If it's just a test, why would anybody object?
I'll help you out a little bit.
Okay.
The state board dropped the CAT and the Iowa. Those are gone. So what you have is an adaptive test. It changes as you're taking it on the computer. So as you answer a question wrong, it changes it. So not everybody gets the same test.
Okay.
And then like the high school, we don't have a graduation exam for that anymore with E, and you have tests that don't have norms. So basically, you've taken away all the sticks to measure the children with. You don't have a standard stick. That's the easiest way of looking at it.
Tamagotchi Giesler is in studio with me, and on the phone with me is David Neese. They're both running for school board. Let me go to Mike. Mike, welcome to KOAN and KVNT.
Yeah. I got just a really kind of a simple question when it comes down to standards and testing. Now, has school changed so much since I was at school that you went to school, you sat through a class, you learned the stuff, the teacher gave you a test, you had maybe 1 or 2 tests during the course of the week. You did that all the way through the first quarter of the school, and you got your report card, and you either got an A, B, C, D, E, or an F. Like, my deal is on it, I guess, is that if you got this standard bit, then why do we need these adaptive tests? If a kid is a A student, they've passed that thing and they're ready to go on to the next year. They're a C student, they passed that course, they're ready to go on to the next year. That's what I really would like to know, why we even need adaptive when we just...
Okay, thanks, Mike. Tam, what do you think?
Well, first of all, I want to address the issue of tests. One teacher to another teacher doesn't necessarily have the same expectations, the same grading scale. And so the standardized test is one way to see across all teachers of that subject, how is a student progressing in that grade level. And in terms of adaptive, again, this is brand new, so I haven't had an experience with this yet. But I understand a student to find out how the depth of their knowledge. For instance, many times students on a standardized test will just bubble in an answer, and it's 50-50 whether they get it right or wrong, or less if there's a number of choices. So this actually analyzes if they truly understand the concept, the underlying information.
And David, has education changed so much? Is it getting more complicated on it?
Well, no, not really. In fact, yeah, there was a speaker up here last week, Ben Chavez, you had on your show, and he threw out all the computers and all the computerized testing and used good old Drill, highest performing high school in the state of California, and all of his children graduated calculus. I mean, standardized testing is not a bugaboo, but you're going to spend millions of dollars on computers just so you can do a test when a pencil and paper be just as efficient. That's a waste of money.
David Nees is on. Rusty Giesler is in studio with me. Love to hear from you. 569-1080 out in the valley, 357-5868. David, welcome to the Glen Biegel Show. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, I have a question for Ms. Giesler, and I have one for both of them as well. The first question is, you voted for Common Core, and before the state even adopted their college and career standards, and with that much, the implementation of Common Core was going to cost. That's a question to Ms. Giesler. And for both of them, I have one. How do we ensure that we have an effective teacher, the most important factor? How do we ensure we have an effective in every classroom? Thank you.
Thanks, David. Appreciate that.
So I do need to clarify that the Common Core was already adopted by the board before I even came on in my last term, yet I do support them. The state mandating of the tests, however, is not our purview to determine whether or not we want to do those tests. We must do those, and the AMP test is replacing the SBA tests. His second question was, the effective teachers. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Teachers need to have the appropriate training. They need to be supported. They need to continue their education in order to effectively do their jobs. They are the most important factor in a student's success in the educational field, in addition to the parents that support education. And so some of the things that we're doing in this literacy pilot is providing literacy mentors for teachers who have students' needs who aren't meeting the proficiency levels. And that's part of the continuing education and the mentoring. We've also done what we call instructional tours, not unlike in the medical field when the interns follow the doctors on their rounds. We're doing some of those same things at the secondary level so that teachers who wish to improve their practice or expand their practice have best practice examples to model.
All right. David, you have a suggestion for how to get effective teachers in every classroom.
Yeah, you hold them accountable for how their kids did on the test. And if they don't do well, you may just need a little extra training like she's talking about with mentoring. But last year on the district's profile of performance, 10,000 children did not make a year's progress in either math or language arts or both. That's a lot of kids.
That's out of about 46,000.
Yeah, we're closing in on just dipping under 46.5. So, yeah, that's a quarter.
Well,
which is
there's a lot of people, by the way, who are not aware that the Anchorage School District does not serve that number of students. 25% is not serving very well at all. I'm going to get back to questions that I had here, and David Nees is on the phone, and Tamagotchi Giesler is in studio with me. You talked about ready for college and third grade reading and efficiencies as sort of your top tier items. What I was trying to figure out, and what I'm sort of I don't know, consumed with, is why do we not have enough charter schools? What is it going to take to get more charter schools? And why do we have 600 people on the waiting list for just one charter school, which doesn't even have 600 children in it, called Aquarian?
So first of all, the charter schools is a community group that has either a philosophical approach they want to pursue, and they bring those charter ideas to us. And in fact, we have indeed recently approved 2 more charter schools who are working on identifying facilities and opening their programs. In terms of the numbers on the wait list, we just had a presentation and I was just looking through my notebook, but I didn't bring that with me from the administration. Now with our online lottery, we're better able to analyze those numbers to find out how many students are repeat subscribers to all the
Trying to
different
get
charter
into
schools.
every charter school they can.
Right. I mean, in some cases, people, and it's not just charter schools, it's our optional and alternative programs and neighborhood schools where they want to zone exempt. And in some cases, we had parents who signed up for 25 different schools. So there's a potential in that 600 many repeats, and that they've actually already chosen a program in the district that's not reflected.
Well, in that 600, you couldn't have a repeat.
Yes.
You couldn't have Sally is number 20 and Sally is number 40 on the list.
The repeat in the sense of there wasn't a way that we could identify what was their first choice, their second choice, all the way up to their 25th choice. So somebody may be on that list.
Well, no, they may be on other lists, but they're only on that list once. I mean,
no, it's kept.
You're saying that the Anchorage School District can't even determine how many times one person is on the same list?
That's what we are now able to do with this online lottery.
Oh, I'd like to see that.
Yes, and in fact, I'll share some of that information.
Yeah, I would really like to see that, because maybe it's not 600.
Exactly.
That's on that list, but I'd be shocked.
No,
do you have a proof of any of these children who are actually multiples on the very same list for the same school?
Oh, you mean the same kid on the same?
There are 600 people on
That's
Aquarian charter schools waiting list. Those are single individual children on one school's charter school list waiting to get in.
May not have been their first choice, and they may.
Well, I understand that, but they're still individuals. There's not only 300. There is literally 600 people. You can't have duplicates on this. Okay. Well, look, we've got a lot of work to do, and I don't know. You got $850 million to spend every year. Obviously, I have chosen a different way, and my money is getting used for public schools. You know, I wish they were better performing, but that's just the best we could do. Tammy Gosti-Giesler is running for school board. So is David Neese, and unfortunately, we are out of time. We're going to have to leave it there. Stay tuned, folks. 26 minutes before the hour. Got a little tense there at the end. I enjoy that. That's kind of my favorite part.
I thought that was some good discussion.
Yeah, me too. And we're going to get into the philosophical differences upon which I ask my questions here in just a moment. Let me tell you about a place that has a lot less tension than you would think. And they are hoping that you go in armed to the teeth with all the information you can carry with you. Payless Car Sales. Ali and his team over there, Russell, JC, Oscar, just a great group of folks. There's very little pressure because they do not have the individual reward system, where they live or die by each and every sale. It's shared amongst them as a group. They work as a team, and it's much more of a family atmosphere. 677 Auto. That's how you get in touch with them. Every single car in their lot under NADA, and what you'll find if you go around town now, I see 4 and 5 license plate with Payless Car Sales on it. Just about everywhere I go. I was parked in Walmart just the other day. Beautiful car right next to me. Payless Auto Sales right on the back of it. Yeah, that's right. 919 East 5th Avenue. They take care of the military for sure, too. 677 Auto. They'll also file your taxes. How weird is that? A couple of items at the top of the news before I get back into some commentary about high standards for everyone. Neighbors and assembly members increase efforts to shut down Fairview Liquor Store. This is a literal definition of what this is. It's a witch hunt, and they're not buying liquor at this liquor store. They're buying it all over town. It's not like the drunks don't go in and buy their own liquor. People deliver liquor to them. I've never seen a drunk in a liquor store. It's illegal to give a drunk liquor. It's already illegal. I would also, by the way, suggest that we pass a law that anybody who's been publicly drunk, it's illegal to give them money, and it's illegal to give them alcohol or any other drug. I'd like to see that. Let's pass on a little bit of the responsibility onto everybody else. You can see if they're stumbling around, and here you are handing money out through your window. Why do you do that? You really think that's good for them? That can't possibly be good for them. It's not good for somebody who's already drunk to give them cash. What are you? You want them to die? Is that what you're shooting for? That's what your charity means to you. Like, hey, I'm a Vietnam vet and I'm hungry. By the way, I'm drunk off of my rear end. Give me some cash. Don't believe these signs, folks.
It's our human nature.
It is.
It just is in us. My kids will be in the car and they're like, oh, look at that person. And I'm like, I know, but there's other ways we can help them.
And you should. You always should help them, but in other ways, for sure. You cannot give them money. You just can't. It's not a good act. It's not a good act. Giving them food, yeah, but they probably 50% of the time or more are going to throw it away. You just can't. You can't give them money for sure. And every person that you ever give money to, if they've asked you for money, you always have to ask. I will not, or tell them, I will not give you money if you're going to use it for alcohol. If you sense any alcohol in their breath at all, any drug use whatsoever, you're not allowed to give them money. That is not a charitable act. That's an evil act.
And you'll notice that they're usually standing right next to where there's a brown jug somewhere. And those little tiny bottles are only a couple bucks. It does not take much.
Well, I do think that we ought to try and make it more and more illegal for people to give them alcohol. Basically say that if you give someone who's been publicly intoxicated alcohol, you could be fined. I'd like to see that. That would be a good law because we've got to distribute this responsibility around to people or give them money. Ooh, now that would be rough. If you give somebody money who is publicly inebriated, and we could even have like a highly visible ankle bracelet for people who've been publicly inebriated more than one time. If you're publicly inebriated 2 times, you get an ankle bracelet. And then you could just drive by and say, show me your ankle. I'm not giving you any money.
That kind of giving is really, it's for you. It's not for them.
That's right.
It's all about you. It's helping you make, feel better about yourself giving.
But just realize you could be killing them.
Right.
You could be that terminal dose of what you think of as charity. All right, here's my thoughts on Common Core and everyday math. First of all, the likelihood we're going to be able to beat the public teachers union candidates, almost impossible. Kathleen Plunkett, Tamagotchi Giesler, look, they're supported by the teachers union. Whoever is supported by the teachers union is going to get in. And that's just the way it is. So that's my first commentary. This is almost a fool's errand. I really appreciate David Neese for attempting to get on the school board, and he makes a very good case, in my opinion. Secondly, a standard that applies to everyone is a standard no one should try and meet. I just want you to understand that. If it's a standard that everyone can meet, then it's a standard no one should want. These are not reasonable, responsible adult standards. It's almost like somebody told you a fairy tale, right? They were just on my program here telling us a fairy tale. And what we're going to have is everyone will be rich and everyone will be a millionaire and everyone's going to be happy and everyone will be just great. And that's the world that I want to live in. And if we could live in that world, I just want you to know, I think it would be wonderful. That's what they just said on my program. Listen, not everybody could meet the standard I was meant for when I went to high school. I couldn't meet the standards that my brothers and sisters were meant for when they went to high school. I couldn't handle the AP English classes until I got into I think 12th grade, and I got a C. Different people have different standards that they have to meet. These are not high standards. If everyone can meet them, they're not high standards. That's just the definition. I don't mean to burst anybody's bubble, but I am sick to death of you people who want to live and make this world a perfect world. Guess what? It isn't. We all have different standards. You want to know who's more important, by the way, than your teacher to how you do in school? Your doggone freaking parents. Listen, parents, this is your job. It's not the teacher's job. It's not the administrator's job. It's not the teachers union's job. It's not Carol Como or Ed Graff or any of these people. It's your job. Your job is to educate your own children and make sure that they have your values, frankly, and your culture. Now, I know a lot of people are just getting more and more lazy. I don't know how to help you. That's the way I look at it. Be an active parent. Care a little bit more about your kids. I think what you'll find is they will shock you. The first way that they'll shock you is they'll start doing things that you ask them to do and that you expect them to do, and then you model for them. That will be a big, huge, fat shock because they'll stop acting like their friends whose parents don't care about them either. So please, care about your own kids. Secondly, if you think that these Common Core standards are going to save your child from a life of poverty and being average, you couldn't be more wrong. That's silly. You believe in ponies and you believe in rainbows. That's what you believe in. And I know that this is what we want to believe in. We love to believe in ponies and rainbows, but they're, even ponies are actually real. And so rainbows are real, but we just can't have either of them. Okay. Everybody can't have a pony. I know you wanted a pony. Well, you could have my pony, the little thing where you brush the pony's tail. You can have that pony, but it's not real. That's not a real pony. And you wouldn't even want a real pony, by the way. Have I gone far enough off track?
They're expensive.
Ponies are very expensive. They actually smell.
Now, a unicorn, I think that might have been what you meant.
Unicorn, yes. They don't smell. They never smell. Although they are always looking around for virgins. So I don't know what's about there, but that's just the way to try and get them to ride. I don't know. Where are we off? Where are we off? I think
we have a caller.
Okay, Joe. Joe, thank you for saving me from myself. Joe, I think he hung up with malice. He's like, these people are crazy. 569-1080, 569-1080, and 357-5868. I love this little battle going on between Bibi Netanyahu and the president.
Oh, did you hear his speech today?
No, I didn't get a chance to hear it. Can you play a part of it?
It gave me chills. I wish I could.
We're
I'll
try
to find it. I'll try. Yeah. I'll try to find it for tomorrow because it was really, really good.
Here's a couple of things to it. This deal that the White House is making with Iran paves Iran's path to the bomb. Iran's founding document pledges death, tyranny, and the pursuit of jihad. Thunderous applause. There were days when Jewish people remained passive in the face of genocidal aggression. Those days are over. An enraged Pelosi freaks out on the floor of the House. All right, Joe, welcome. Please save me. I don't want to talk anymore about ponies or unicorns or any of that stuff.
You're doing a good job, Glenn. Thank you, by the way.
It's a pleasure.
Hello, Bonnie.
Hello, Joe. Always good to talk with you.
All right. This is Moderate Joe from the Valley.
Yeah, independent. No,
Independent
I live
Joe.
here in Anchorage.
All right, Independent Joe from Anchorage. Hey.
Yeah, well, you were talking about the inebriation problem uptown, and you got it from the newspaper on the website, I see. And,
yeah,
people are contributing alcohol to these people are contributing to their early deaths, including the red nose in. And, I'm still kind of calling it that. I just don't want to.
Yeah, people don't have a very long lifespan at the Red Nose Inn.
And let me end by just saying that Judge Wickersham, and this is documented history, Judge Wickersham sentenced a man to 50 lashes for selling alcohol to a native fella.
Wow.
There's the kind of law and order I like. But
yeah,
anyway,
did that fix that guy? Hey, I appreciate it, Joe. Thanks very much. Man. Yeah, you're listening to the Glen Biegel Show. Coming up on the program, Mike Novak and Jenny Ragland are going to be on with us, and these are people who really are doing something about people in poverty, people in need, and people who are less well off than most of the rest of us. If you've got a chance and you've got the ability to give, even if it's just $10 a month, boy, I tell you, there are great places to invest and great places to save our fellow man and woman and child. You're listening to the Glen Biegel Show. It's 14 minutes before the hour. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Stay tuned. 10 minutes before the hour, it is the Glen Biegel Show. We continue here on KOAN and KVNT. And I just wanted to let you know that if you are in the midst of trying to figure out what to do about those brown spots on your roof, maybe a little bit of sagging between the eaves, maybe some of the shingles are missing, it could be an indication there's a much bigger problem. And you don't want to let these problems just sit around. The longer you let your roof rot or decay, the worse it's going to be. You could be doing just as much damage as your roof would cost to the inside of your house. So make sure to give these guys a call. Earhart Roofing, 345-5555. Just call 34 and just start hitting 5. You'll get to Jamaica, or you'll get to Frank, James, and Becky over at Earhart Roofing. And you'll find them on that distinctive red-roofed building there on the frontage road between Diamond and Dowling. Earhart Roofing, when you think roofing, think Earhart, EARHART. And in studio with me here, I've got Mike Novak and Jenny Ragland, and I love to hear your voice. Actually, I just want you just to talk for about the next, 15, 20, 30 seconds, maybe a couple minutes. Hold on a second.
Mike, turn the microphone on.
All right. If I had a button here, I would push it.
Sorry, I turned on every button but that one.
All right.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Well, I don't know that we've had anybody on that microphone before, so this might be a new thing.
No, it works. It's good.
So welcome. You're with K-Love, which you've been a fixture around Alaska for a long period of time. Of course, Jenny Ragland, you've been on many times on the program, a good friend of the program from the Salvation Army. And I highly recommend, by the way, that people, it's Lent right now, so it's a big deal. People trying to get closer to God. Good time to give a little. Good time to make that yearly donation for, even if it's $10-20 a month. I mean, it makes such a big difference.
It does make a huge difference and stays right here in Alaska and helps the people who come every day and depend on the Salvation Army.
Much
so
better
thank you, Glenn.
to give money to you guys than to give it out your window, in my mind.
Absolutely. And if you want to give online, you can visit salvationarmyalaska.org, and there is a link that says donate now, and we will put your dollars to good work and invest them in people right here.
Well, and the good thing about it is so much of the money does go directly into, back into the community, into the places where it's needed. And that's not true of every nonprofit, certainly in the state of Alaska. Some of them just call themselves nonprofits, but all the money essentially goes into the people who run their sort of nonprofit corporations. That's not true with Salvation Army. All right, Mike.
Yes.
I did not get to hear enough of your voice. I just have to tell you that.
Sorry.
So you're with K-Love, and you got what sounds to me to be a very unique, a very interesting, and maybe it's needed. Tell me about this training that you're giving out.
Sure. It's called Crisis Response Training, and it came about 3 years ago. K-Love, of course, 88.5 here in Anchorage, and Jenny, I want to make a point of this. Jenny and the group at Salvation Army have made such a blessing out of this trip up here. Started to call it a vacation because it almost is. Yeah. I love Anchorage. I really do. I'm born and raised in California. I love Anchorage, and I love the people here. Anyway, we had a vision. We're a 501c3. People support us through prayer and sometimes and many times through sacrificial giving. And it's always kind of been like, how can we give back to the communities in addition to what we do on the radio and promotions and this and that and everything else? We found a need in the greater Sacramento, California area, and that was, I'm involved in a lot of law enforcement stuff. I'm a chaplain and whatnot.
You look buff, by the way. Am I right on that, Jenny?
Absolutely.
It's the shirt.
I want that on. I don't think it's the shirt.
No,
I think it's more the pecs.
The bruise. This is what you have
Holy
to
smokes.
go through.
Did you hit him? She's tough. She will take you down.
No, he will. Anyway, we said, if you have a problem, you call a first responder. You call a policeman, a fireman, EMT. You may call a chaplain. You may call your local church. You may call a volunteer group.
Right.
But who's helping them? That's one of the first things that we found out. A lot of communities around the lower 48 especially are cutting back on their training schedule. Everybody's hurting for money right now.
Everybody's trying to figure out how to make things work.
And we said, we need to do something about this. We need to give back. In this case, we love giving back to the people in Anchorage that pray for us. So we reached out to a gentleman named Dr. Kevin Ehlers, who is also with the Salvation Army. And he and his wife are actually the ones who have written most of the certified material. And we said, Kevin, what are you doing for the rest of your life? And we're going to put you on the road and go around to communities and put on these official trainings and certify people in crisis response training. We then went to a group of our donors and said, here's our vision. Here's where we feel we're being led. How do you feel about that? And they have stepped up and prepaid for it. Now, the classes that we're doing right now in Anchorage today through Friday, no, they're not free, but they're free to the people taking them. So it's sort of a pay it forward kind of a thing.
And it starts today, you said?
Yeah, today was the day one. Each class is 2 days, and today was day one of the first class. Then on Thursday and Friday, that's one class.
Oh, is it a second class or the same class repeated?
Second.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it takes 2 classes sort of to certify.
Correct.
An emergency response. Now, the purpose of it, do you, let's say that somebody sees somebody being beat up. They're going to call police, fire in order to try and get the situation and stuff. Tell me how this group of people fits in and what your vision, what your hope is.
Once you're certified, we urge you and we give you resources to do it through our website. And I'll give you that in a minute. To get involved in a crisis group that's in your area. You go, you apply, you're vetted by them. And once you become part of a crisis team, there's a high likelihood, like, for instance, the police department here, they reach a situation and once it's safe, in the academy, they don't train you they train you how to put jewelry basically on people, but not what to do when Fred's dead, Mary's crying.
I see.
So they call you in and they say, if they don't have chaplains and whatnot, hey, could you come alongside this family during this time of crisis? It could be something that's nationwide. It could be something all across Alaska. A giant earthquake happens, or we've had many of that in the lower 48.
Kind of like a National Guard, but not organized in military.
For people. That's exactly right. And you become part of a team and you get called out. And then through your training and through the resources in these groups, you apply that practice to people. And people go, well, what is it? What do you do when you show up? It could be anything from providing immediate need help. It could be spiritual help. It could be sitting there and listening. You're just coming alongside people.
Well, I love the response. I love the opportunity for people. Are you having a good response here for the classes? You get them full?
Excellent.
And they're being taken at Salvation Army, your community centers. You need to let people know how to get in touch with you.
Easy. There's a website. It's called crisisresponse.org. Typical spelling. crisisresponse.org.
Mike Novak and Jenny Ragland, thanks so much for coming in, and good luck. What a great opportunity.
Thank you
people.
for allowing us to do this.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Very cool.
Thanks so much. God bless, folks. Hope you have a great Tuesday. I'll talk with you again in about 22 hours.